there it is.
Oh my lord.
We got it. Hey.
All right, so now we just gotta resize this a little bit. Blow it up and shift it around a little bit. There we go. Okay. So this is a pretty good spot.
And now open up the Discord view of it.
Alrighty. And then I have some notes that I'm going to have open on the side so that I can look at those.
Oh boy. Can't wait to get roasted.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm here for.
It's a very very pedagogic roast. Sure, that's a word.
I don't know if I've heard that one before.
Pedagogy is the study of teaching.
Ah.
And is the other question is audio coming through? I think it should be. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's coming through. Really quickly, Devi, say something.
Hi.
Okay, perfect. So it is also coming through there. Cool. Alrighty. Ready to get this thing going here.
Discord view.
Discord
yeah, I still
view?
can't see it in Discord.
Oh, you can't see it? Right, okay.
And the stream would have a lot of delay.
Yeah. Here it is.
There
Now you should be able to see. Okay.
Yeah.
All good?
There we go. Yep. Yep, I'm watching it.
All right, awesome. So, first note that we need to be aware of here is that this is recorded using the spectator view.
Yep.
You can see at the very beginning, it starts in the overhead view and then cuts down. So, spectator view is really good for watching, for like a viewing experience on, say, a stream. The one thing that it might not do as well is show exactly where Drumstyx is watching.
Yeah.
The camera is definitely stabilized a lot in this view, and the other thing is that we can't see when he's opening the map and when he's not. So it'll just always be the view from his end, even if he's flashing the map screen on a whole bunch. So there are a couple of times where I might ask, like, were you watching the map or something like that?
For sure. Kind of figured that would happen.
Alright. So we're rolling out on the right-hand side here. This is a pretty common place to see splatlings, I would say. You see that there are some shots. You can see my cursor, right?
Yep.
So you see that there are some shots coming across here. So one thing that I kind of want you to be doing if you're going to poke around in this direction, and I'll say this a couple of other times, is I want you to rotate your camera so that you're looking around this wall before you move your inkling past the wall. Because otherwise you're just gonna get shot from someplace you can't see.
Okay.
So that was relatively safe because you kind of just ducked back immediately, and also your CDS here, I actually run into him in solo queue all the time.
Japanda, yeah.
Yes.
He went and pushed the ballpoint, so you know that they're out of the way at this point. So now you can kind of just peek out here. It looks like you actually didn't recognize that, and you were kind of shooting in that direction before you figured out that happened. But
yeah,
you end up getting the zone here, and then that's lag right there. It looks like you dropped off the ledge, but you actually didn't. I was going to say, I don't think it's a good idea for you to drop there, and then you didn't, so good.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that throwing a point sensor in that area is very lovely. Like, as soon as you, know that you're running out of charge or something, you know you have enough ink, throw a point sensor in that area where you see that one person on the left-hand side. Then you can make sure that there's not more than one, because it really does help your teammate who's just off to the side there on the left.
And to jump in on that, you already know that there are two there. You've already seen two, plus there's a jump now.
Then they're going to move, right? So this way you can track them and your front lines know where they are. Because your fall off will really be important on the other side of that ramp, because the amount of times you can hit fall off shots there because they keep kind of moving back and forth is actually ridiculous.
Right. I will say I've watched this a couple times myself, and I'm pretty sure I never use a single point sensor this game.
Oh no!
That wouldn't surprise me, from having seen it a couple of times. So
That's definitely something I need to work on.
they're very, very minor. Oh shoot, that is not correct. Alright. So apparently I can't use the arrow keys to advance it by a few seconds here. Let's jump back for a second. So there's the glitch. So right there, I think you probably could have hit the 52. It looks like you save all of your charge for the jump, when you probably could have like hit the 52 and then switched over to the jump.
I think, well, I started by shooting 52, and then, like, I saw them move, and was like, okay, well, they're probably out of range now, so I'm just gonna focus on the jump.
Yeah, that's fair. And the faster you learn to get your aim on, the more you'll be able to do in that short span of time. So it works out. You guys get 2 picks, and now you drop down here, which I don't necessarily disagree with, because you might maybe want to move up to take their ramp. You might want to move over to the left-hand side. Like, there are a couple of good places you could be in, but you kind of stay here. This is a really good spot for short-range weapons, where you have a lot of cover to work with, so it cuts enemy line of sight on you, and you're able to get the jump on people. But as we'll see in just a second, I think you can actually see the jump in there, maybe? Is that what's happening up there? It's possible. Yeah, that is exactly what's happening. There's a jump over to here, and this is a 52 gal. Because they were able to close the distance with you before you saw them, they now have the advantage in this fight because they splat faster.
Right.
And they're able to move and strafe around better. So remember kind of the advantage that they have here, that they have cover in between you, that they have these hard right angles that cut your line of sight and your line of fire to them. Because I'll be talking about that as something you should be doing against the ballpoint later on.
Right.
But so because you kind of put yourself in this bunker here.
Facepalm moments against this ballpoint.
Back to the position though, I want to add here, dropping here is dangerous, as we can see right now. But if you want suggestion on the prime spot, you have 2 down, and your biggest range is the ballpoint. Back a second ago, you could see where Japanda was up on the top right. The name's gone now, but they're still up just straight past on the bridge. You want to control that area.
Okay.
That way you have height advantage, and you'd have like 3 other weapons that are shorter range than you. So you're able to just control that top. It's really just the ballpoint. You really have to kite around, but you want to maintain that top right, since your E-leader has the top left. So you don't even need to drop at all.
Well, yeah, this is like stuff that I am not thinking at all about in the game. Like, I have such a hard time like keeping track of like who's dead, who's coming back in, etc. Like, I just kind of play and deal with whatever is like happening in front of me.
It really changes for what you're up against. Because if it was like, say, like a more long range weapons, then in some case this position is actually just perfectly fine, because then if the range weapons are up top and you don't have a charge, then yeah, you're doomed. So it all depends on what you're going up against, but in this case, since there's majority short range and it's just the ballpoint, you're perfectly fine just maintaining the top right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a map where long range weapons can really lock out super hard. You've got an E-leader on probably the single most powerful position for the E-leader on the map right now, and they're watching the left side and maybe across to the right a little bit. So if you take this position up here, there's really no way in until somebody's able to disrupt one of those 2 positions you're in. So that's kind of what your game plan should be there. But one of the things that I'm thinking is... from right here, you have the longer range weapon, right? So on a wide open flat plane with absolutely no cover, that's where you're at your best, because you can be shooting them before they can shoot you. But now you can see here, there's all this cover around here that's blocking you off from those lines of fire, and that gives them opportunities to approach you before you can hit them. And so that's kind of how the short range weapons are going to play around it. So what you could have done here, maybe, if they missed a few too many shots is you might have been able to back up onto the bridge, and you do that later, so it looks like you're aware of that strategy at least. Because on the bridge, all that matters is run speed, and you're a Splatling, so you're presumably running a lot more run speed than the normal weapon will.
I have 2 mains, 2 subs of run speed on this
That
side,
is
I believe.
plenty for sure.
That's
No
actually,
frontline
like,
weapon is
a
ever
great
going to run
amount.
that much. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Debbie.
No, I just say like that's like the right amount. Like that's what I run on the Hydra. Like on heavies, I only run a main and 3 subs, but even then, that's just it's a nice amount. Even then, you're like prioritizing that. And with this map, I like to run more run speed than normal. So
Right, because there's a lot of great stuff at the top.
Yeah.
Right?
yep, exactly my point.
So, yeah, using the grates behind you might have been an option, but if this guy hits his shots, then, or I guess if the RNG also cooperates, then you're dead to rights.
Got you.
Alright. So one thing that we can't see, but that I hope you're doing, is that while you're splatted, you should always just have your map open constantly.
I definitely do every time I'm splatted, yes.
Perfect. The only exception to that rule is if you're in an environment where you're doing callouts, it might actually be beneficial to still
look
have
at what my opponent
eyes
is doing after I'm dead.
exactly on the player that splatted you, so that you can give your teammates that information, like, oh, he's sharking or he's pushing you or something like that. I do want to compliment you on your jumps. Generally, I don't think you get splatted off of a jump at all. I think all of the jumps that you do in are pretty safe, but they also move you back to a position where you're going to be impactful pretty quickly.
Hey, thank you.
So those are all solid choices. From here, you run into the conundrum that you have 2 backliners, which is not the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's not... I don't want to just write it off entirely, because for one thing, it works in this game.
Right.
But for another thing, we have a lot of conceptions of how the game should be played that can often be challenged. Like, a lot of the time you see something like a charger with a jet squelcher, and that's totally fine. But the way that you're going to have to play with an E-leader on your side is a little bit more aggressive, and from different positions than maybe you're used to playing. Because the problem
because they're like a harder backline than I am.
Exactly. They are not capable of playing the aggressive midline play style, and you to some degree are. And so that's kind of the thinking there. Because one of the issues you run into right here is that you're actually cutting off your E-leader's line of sight by positioning on the top left here. From this position, the E-leader cannot cover this area at all. They're forced to look out over mid. If you walk around a little bit too much right here, they might just end up giving you a back massage instead of hitting their shot.
Actually, kind of my thought is one thing that I don't know if this is actually true or not, but one thing that someone that I've played with has told me is that since chargers, like, they have piercing shots, so their shots will actually go through teammates, whereas my shots won't because I'm a splatling. So that was actually kind of my thought process, and like, if I'm in the same spot as a charger, I will prefer to move in front of them instead of them moving in front of me.
Devi, can you speak to that? Because I don't think I've heard of that, but I also don't play backline.
I also have not heard of that.
Okay, well, there's a quick and easy way for us to test that.
Let's test it!
Yeah, I mean, that's what my friend has told me, who, like, basically, like, one-tricks E-leader. And we've, like, played together a lot, and, like, I'll play Remix and she'll play E-leader, and that's what she has told me before.
Devi, hop in, and then, Andre, are you available?
Yes, I'm here.
Hop into the PB really quickly.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm back.
Are you picking
That's
the
what I
charger? Or...
So what we'll need is we'll need a charger, so we can just make that Devi, I guess. And then we'll need someone to be on Devi's team, and then we'll put the other player on the other team, see if they can get shot through it. Because I know that charger shots are piercing through opposing players. Like, you can get collaterals.
I do that too.
Yep.
I just don't... so Devi needs to be on the team, so we'll put Devi on the team with me, and then I will get right up in her business. And we'll see if that works out.
So just stand on the other side of the stack.
Yep.
Because that's a pretty good straight line. So go to your left, Andre. Jim, come to our left.
Oh, our left? Okay.
I hate this box.
We could just go into mid and just like
Yeah, do
stand right
that.
here.
It's so interesting hearing you guys like hatch it out without actually seeing it.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, it looks like it works.
Hey.
Interesting.
All right. I guess we have to KO it.
Oh no.
But anyway, back to the VOD.
So I was correct then.
Yes, that's interesting because
Because it doesn't work that way with Splatlings, and that's what Devi
Oh,
plays.
no.
So that is something that I've always made sure to try and avoid. But yeah, so that is good positioning then. It's maybe a little bit redundant to have both of you basically covering the same angles, being in the same place. So I would still say it's probably better to find a place that's away from your E-leader. But today we learned.
from what happened in general, like we saw there was one just below. The charger didn't have a charge, so the fact that Drumstyx actually moved up, got that splat, just to kind of like protect the other E-leader at that time was actually really good. So getting that splat first, and then I would consider moving it to a different position.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was actually one of the moments that I was most proud of. Followed by this moment right here, I believe is one of my least proud moments of this game.
Oh,
Yes,
oh no.
Inkstorm. They sneak up on you sometimes.
Yeah, I remember I was having trouble seeing where it was coming from because of the grate. Like, doesn't show you like where it's.
You didn't know
know,
which
where
direction you had to
covering.
move.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like
sometimes it's tough.
yeah.
Okay, so this right here, exact same principle as we were talking about with the 52 gal versus you, only
Yep.
now it's you versus the ballpoint. Because remember, the ballpoint's got Hydra range, so they beat you in terms of range, not to mention that they have a little bit
No,
of
I
height
actually didn't
advantage.
know.
I believe that got cut down. The
Oh,
Hydra
really?
actually outrages the ballpoint. Do you remember when they nerfed the ballpoint last?
I didn't remember that there was a range nerf, so I actually don't know how that is relative to the heavy at
I
this
heard
point, if
that there
that's
was.
that's true,
I'll have to
but
look.
it did used to be Hydra range at the very least.
I did hear it was shorter, but could have changed.
I guess that's also something that we could test in the lab over here just to see. But
I'm gonna go look.
even if they are exactly identical ranges, it has height advantage over you, and so it's still going to be hitting you before you hit them.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't bet on being able to do that, and I still think the ballpoint does have longer range. So
This is the one moment in this game where I die, where I'm like, you know what? I have no explanation for what was going through my mind in this moment.
the way that you do this is just like the 52. You keep cover in between the two of you until you're in range. It looks to me like the ballpoint over there, they turn to look at mid, and it may be that you saw that and you were like, oh, okay, so they're just going to let me, they don't see me maybe, they're just going to let me walk in for free.
Right. I think that was what I was thinking, but I should not have been thinking that because this guy Cuddle is just like one of the best players in our server.
Against, say, a B rank player, I would definitely expect that they just forgot you existed. You know, they're not great with object permanence yet at that rank.
Right.
But the ballpoints, you know, higher up is definitely going to remember that you were there. So you need to kind of treat them as though they know you're there until you're in range at the very least. So if you just go up on the left-hand side, they don't have shots on you. And once you get up to here, if you drop down and start firing, now you're at range all of a sudden. And that's an opportunity where you might catch them if they're not looking. So right here, they're not shooting you, so you would have had the opportunity to go up there. But as soon as you get close enough, they're able to take you out.
Yep.
Boing, boing, boing. He's hopping like a bun bun.
I'm not allowed
Yeah.
to show, but the ballpoint does in fact have less range than Hydra.
Less range than Hydra. What's the comparison with the heavy now?
I'm gonna bring the heavy here.
All right. So we're pushing in on grates, and I think this is the part of the game where you use the grates, you know, the run speed to be able to kite back, which is really good. You're just backing up here. No way that this Clapples is going to get close enough to you before you can get shots on them. So this is really good defensive positioning.
Okay.
Here, so you see that they're going down to the left. My only thing that I would say is try to aim in front of them. Because, for one thing, your teammate is already chasing them. So even if literally all you accomplish is making them move slower, your teammate is going to be able to follow up and finish that. If you're shooting behind them, you're not really helping as much. You're not going to stop them. So I would always try to aim, like, err on the side of, like, aiming way over here, and then bring it back to the right, instead of aiming kind of behind them and never really stopping them from going forward.
That is an instinct I need to work on in terms of my aiming, for sure.
But you're able to pick him off anyway. Your teammate was already hot on his tail, and it's a pretty good look right here. Good job noticing that your teammate went down, and as you fire these shots, I think right here, the sound effect changes. Did you notice that?
No.
Because this guy comes up with a baller now.
Oh.
So a couple of those shots actually hit the baller, which makes a different sound when you shoot it than when you shoot an Inkling. And now that clues you in, oh, that was the 52. They just popped their baller. Now you handle it just fine. They kind of detonated it really early. If they'd rushed you directly, that might have been better for them, except that your teammate was up ready to deal with it. This baller doesn't accomplish an awful lot, but that's a good piece of awareness to have, so you can gather more information.
So yeah, what Jamie says is really true, but like literally how I have it, the fall off on the heavy reaches about the same as the ballpoint. So if you kind of hopped around with the ballpoint, it would have like the slightest bit more range, but I would almost consider them the exact same.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought it was.
Yeah,
That they're basically the same range.
Yep, because I just stood still with both of them, and the heavy's fall off matches the tip of the ballpoint.
Okay, so
they're pretty...
I would say that is a very small but significant range advantage for the ballpoint.
Yeah, the ballpoint does beat that.
So it's kind of like, what's a good comparison?
I mean, also the ballpoint has more accurate shots at long range than heavy does, because heavy has a bit of spread as it gets further.
Yep, that's where you can see that as well.
Mm-hmm. So I would still be cautious about taking that 1v1 until you're sure that you're actually in range.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright. So this booyah here, I think let me take a look at it. Someone up there. So from here, on your way up, you can see that there is the ballpoint up here. Now, you trigger the booyah pretty early on. If you had paused for a second and taken a look, you would have been more certain to see that was there. In my opinion, the ballpoint is a much better target for this booyah than the zone is, because you already have a 4v3. We saw that the Tri-Slosher went down. So your teammates should be able to paint the zone just fine. In fact, every single one of them is going to paint it better than you can. And the bigger threat right now is, because you know your E-leader is up here, and you clearly want to move over to the right, which is what you do next. So the only thing that's standing in your way of getting into that position is the ballpoint. If you throw the booyah at them, they're forced out of position for long enough that you can swim up there and get behind cover in time. But what ends up happening is you throw it onto the zone instead. And then... Actually, I'm thinking wrong booyah. This is a later booyah. This is the second one you do. My bad. So this one,
I was wondering what you were talking about.
it's not the ballpoint. You're right. I'm like, wait, that looks like the dualies. Is the ballpoint about to show up? No, I'm thinking of the wrong. I'm too far forward in my notes.
Right.
Okay, so I can only jump forward in measurements of 30 seconds. So we'll just let this play. So Booyah goes down, and you see that there's someone in the Booyah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they stay in the Booyah, they're already going to get splatted. What you should be shooting at is their way away from the Booyah, which is over here. Same principle as we were talking about before. Paint in front of them so that they can't get there. In this case, they end up getting splatted, but if they had been faster to move away, you might have still been able to catch them if you had aimed to the right.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one thing I'm learning is that like I need to get a lot better at like being more predictive with where I'm firing, because I tend to like just fire at where I last saw someone was, and then like adjust after they move.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how I tend to
predicting is a big thing, and this is where the map comes from, and all your awareness and stuff. It's like this is where they once were. Where are they hiding now? This is where I'm gonna shoot.
Yeah. And I don't want to discredit the kind of reactive aiming, because you kind of need that thought process to be able to snap your reticle to someone. But as soon as you've got your reticle there, then the tracking has to take over. Then you have to start, figuring out the trajectory that they're on so that you can catch them as they continue moving. I like this position here because literally the only thing that you can challenge you is the ballpoint, right? It's going to come from one of two directions, but the ballpoint's already down. So you have range advantage over literally everyone on the other team, and there's nothing they can do about you standing here.
Oh yeah, that's definitely what I was thinking at this moment.
It is a very strong spot.
And I don't think you even have to be that threatened by a torpedo. Like, even if that taps you, then you just paint your feet and get away, because again, they can't approach you. So right here, you know that your E-leader is over there, and then look what happened to the E-leader.
Oh.
So I'm looking at this.
What I'm learning here is that I need to look at the top way more, because I never look at that while I'm playing.
This information up here is overpowered. Like, this game in general gives you more information about what's going on around you than any other shooter I've seen. You have the map, which you can constantly be flicking open to see not quite exactly where your opponents are, but where ink is going down. So anytime they move, you're definitely seeing them. You have when everyone is alive and when they're not. You have when everyone has special and when they don't. Like, there is so much information that you can gather from, split seconds that you spend looking at the heads-up display or the map. But yeah, when that E-leader goes down, as soon as I saw that when I was first watching it, I'm like, oh shoot, he's going to get flanked because he doesn't realize that happened. And they didn't actually go for it. I'm amazed that, they didn't push... If you're shooting it closed like that, why are you not just pushing closed right away and taking that back? I don't understand why they didn't go for it, but they should have just come up and splatted you from behind there instead of going forward and dying to your CDS in front.
Yeah, this might be a good time to mention that this is a PB in a server where everyone tends to play PBs to have fun more than to win as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So, I played it like I was in solo queue, but everyone else is probably, playing in voice chat and just, messing around a little bit. At least a little bit.
And that's totally understandable. That's still what I'm probably going to do if I'm like, all right, I get to stroll down closed now because the E-leader's gone. But
I do agree with you. That is a little odd that they didn't do that.
Take note of.
It's the sort of thing that, if this happens in solo queue, you need to expect that.
For sure.
So
that was a technical error.
Okay.
I did not mean to fall down there.
Gotcha.
I meant to fall onto zone.
It happens.
Yeah. Devi has definitely done that in some tournament matches, and I've definitely fallen off into the water in a bunch of tournament matches. It happens.
Yep.
So yeah, it's good that wasn't an intentional decision.
For sure.
And then from here, this is a thing where it might just be that the camera control is different from yours was, but Did you see the player right here?
No, I don't think so. It's a little pixely on the.
It's definitely
Right
it's
there.
more pixely on Discord, but it's fine on stream. It's kind of
Okay,
funny.
let me look
but
at that.
There is a dueling
Oh yeah,
zone.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see it on the
There,
screen,
now we
yeah.
can see it really well. There's a player standing up right here, and it's probably only there for about 5 frames. But
Right.
if this was your view in game, then that is someone that you should see. And I know for a fact that you don't see them, because as soon as you
Right.
pop up, you are very surprised when those shots start getting fired from behind you.
For sure.
So it's good that your teammate saw it, but if your teammate hadn't saw it, that's a place where you could have gotten picked from. So you're like,
Yeah,
oh shoot,
definitely got
there's
lucky
someone
there.
All right, now this is the booyah I'm talking about, because that is
Right.
definitely the
Yep.
ballpoint over there. And the next thing that you try to do is to go up this wall. And we will see.
Oh yeah, I remember that moment.
Another thing that's happening here is I think you see they've stopped firing. And what
Yep.
you might be thinking is, oh, they're out of charge, and they have to start
Yep.
charging up again. And you see the charging animation.
Yep.
But this is the ballpoint. The ballpoint's going to do is it's going to fire and then charge for about a quarter, turn around the circle, and then fire again.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
you don't have the time.
Because the ballpoint can do that, whereas heavy can't.
Right. So you don't have the time to be popping up over the ledge like this. They're probably just stopping firing so they can maintain their long-range
Yeah.
shots. So you pop up and they're already firing again. The other
Yeah.
thing I'd like to point out is that your Booyah Bomb did not secure the zone for you. The ballpoint and you were effectively both out of play during all of that. So none of your ink for either of you is going onto the zone. Nevertheless, that Booyah Bomb, it's a very, very temporary source of paint.
Right.
So unless you really, really need to get a cap and get like the penalty put on, it's probably not going to help you as much with your capturing the zone as it would if you were to just zone out one of their weapons.
Okay. You know, that's actually a really good lesson, because I tend to booyah zone a lot, just for the painting. So, booyahing to, like, zone out enemies from painting the zone, I'll work on that.
Yeah. Think about it a lot like missiles. Like, missiles, yeah, they're a source of paint, but what they're better at doing is forcing the enemy team to move.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do is basically make it so that your frontliners are able to use that special to push in and take some people out while they're distracted dealing with the special. Or
Yeah, I think that's, like,
displace the ballpoint.
That is definitely something that, like, I've used booyah for before, but I think it's sort of a thing where it's like hitting zone with it has a more tangible effect than, like, forcing someone to move out of position. Like, when you throw it at the charger or whatever, like, you're like, yeah, I moved out of position, then it's like, well, now what, you know?
The now what is what has to happen in the next 5 seconds or so, or else, yes, it is wasted.
Yeah.
And so, in a more coordinated environment, for sure, you throw it at the backliner. But even in that situation, if you're trying to control the area around zone, throw it behind the zone. Because what that'll do is it'll either force them
prevent people from
so
approaching
far away that they can't possibly even get near it for the next 10
Yeah.
seconds or so, or it'll force them onto the zone where they won't have a great amount of cover, and if your teammates splat them, they're now splatted on the zone, which will
Yeah.
help paint the zone for you even more.
Okay.
So usually I find throwing it directly on the zone, nobody wanted to be on the zone anyway. You're probably not going to hit anybody there. And
Right.
so you're better off in the long run. You're more likely to get the cap in the long run if you throw it to displace them than if you throw it just to get the paint.
Okay.
Another way to think about it, if you displace them, then your main weapon can paint afterward and cap the zone.
Right. Yeah, I mean, usually what I do is, like, I'll throw it on one side of the zone and then paint the other side with my weapon. But, you know, what you're saying definitely makes a lot of sense.
So we've spotted that there's one on the other side over here. We've spotted that the baller is coming in. They're definitely pushing. You know where the ballpoint is now? The ballpoint's over here because they're the only weapon in the game that can possibly hit you from that range.
Right.
So we know that they're all pushing on zone. I don't know why the baller went down there. Not sure what their plan was. And now, the nice thing is that your teammates stayed back while all those specials were going off. And now that all of those specials are through and they're not threatened by them anymore, this is when they're re-engaging. And that's really good. I really like the hammer that your sploosh comes out with. That was well played.
For sure. There's a lot of... There's, like... Most of the players in this PB are, like, X rank. Where I'm, like... I just hit 2 S ranks myself, so... It's... Yeah.
So you guys have got a really solid position right now. You can basically go anywhere on the map you want to. I think you just peeked around the corner over there. Let's see. Yes, okay, here's another example of what I was talking about earlier. You want your camera to already be set at this angle before you expose yourself around the corner.
Yeah.
And what you can even be doing is stand up over here with charge ready, so that if you peek around the corner and see there's someone there, you can immediately walk and open fire.
Fire, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll work on that for sure.
It's such a key thing because then you just catch people off guard unless if they're really listening to your charge, but usually that's not the case.
Right.
And we talked about this position before. This is really solid. I think the one thing you could have done differently in this engagement is you started hitting him, and this is the dapple dualies. You can actually walk forward toward him, because when you walk backwards, you end up out of range. It looks like you're doing this kind of like dance back and forth, which is, you know, typical muscle memory, just to make sure that like you're staying mobile, you're difficult to shoot.
Yeah.
But there is no way in hell that he gets anywhere near you to splat you. So in this case, you actually want to be pushing toward him so that you're closing distance, because you could have gotten that splat if you'd been closer to him.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely, like, you're absolutely right. It was absolutely just, like, muscle memory, and, like, definitely what I'm hearing a lot is, like, I should be paying more attention to what weapon I'm fighting and what range they are able to shoot me at, and play around that.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, like, I don't know, I'm just kind of, like, firing at people and just, like, making sure that I'm in range to hit them, and basically that's where the thought process ends.
Right. And
scares me.
Again, the only weapon in this game that can contest you is the ballpoint. So basically everything else, you're just like, if I'm far enough away, then I can just walk at you and you die.
For sure. Okay, yeah. So basically, like, at the start of the match, like, look at the weapons that they have and, like, immediately take inventory of, like, okay, yeah, like, these are the weapons that I outrange, these are the weapons that outrange me, and then, like, play around that.
Right. Another thing that you can be doing beyond that is flick the map open and see what gear they're wearing. You can't, like, just look at all of it and study it in the time that it's going to take you to roll out, but you can at least catch things like who has Ninja Squid, who has Stealth Jump, who is running Double Bomb. You know, little things like that can make a difference in how you have to approach those engagements. And so in the beginning, before literally anybody has a chance to shoot you, you know, when you're just swimming through closed, accomplishing nothing else, that's a perfect time to get all of that information. And if you're on a coordinated team, you'd be telling them what you're seeing there.
Right. Okay, yeah, I'll work on getting into that habit too.
Now, the one thing about this engagement, after, you know, you scare the dualies off, is that you then, you notice, like, oh, there's this rain behind me, there's someone over here, there's something I have to paint, and you turn your back to that. This is the opportunity that if the dualies is really paying close attention and decides to rush you right away, they might actually have had enough time to close distance on you and get close enough that a double roll gets them in range.
Right.
So you don't want to completely turn your back to someone that you were recently fighting, even if you did scare them away. They end up not taking advantage of it, and it looks like maybe they're going into closed or something to maybe try and splash down the zone, I would guess, based on the fact that they have it right now. But that's something that I might have been a little concerned about. And that's game.
Okay.
So let me, or I guess even better, let Devi know if you have any questions.
No, I think that like, yeah, that was. I think I learned what I needed to learn. Like, definitely, it's a lot about keeping track of what weapons the enemy team has, and like looking at the top to like look at, okay, who's alive, who's dead, who am I fighting right now. Like, I definitely do not pay much attention to that while I'm playing.
The main thing that I would say you're paying attention to, to use slightly different words, and this is fresh on my mind because I'm in the middle of the S Plus video right now, and so that's exactly what's in the script.
Okay,
But it's you're thinking of when you have an advantage, and when you might be at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So like,
and that like influences how you play, like whether you press to and be more aggressive or like back up and try to be more safe.
So like there's numbers advantage, which is important. There's range advantage for you, which is important. So for example, if your entire team is down, you know, getting into position and starting to open fire, not the best play. You want to be kind of backing up, giving them jumps so that you can all go in together. And you're generally pretty good at that. Paint advantage is another one. If you're dropping into an area that isn't painted enough for you, then you need to get out of that. And again, that's not a huge problem for you. So there are a lot of these little things to be paying attention to, but it seems like those in particular are ones that you're not seeing that are actually something you can gain an advantage from in these matches.
Got you.
All right. So thank you so much for submitting yourself to our judgment.
Yeah, thank you. This has been really cool.
Really appreciate you giving us content that we can put on the stream for one thing. But
see a splatling. Let's go.
Devi was pogging out of her chair when she found out there was a splatling on today.
Nice.
So happy to have had you on. Hope that was helpful. And I can get this on the YouTube VODs channel that we have if you'd like it for future reference. So just let me know in Discord, and I'll make sure to upload it there and send you a link.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. That is going to be it for us today. We've hit 5 o'clock, and I promised that I would call my mom, so I'm not going to miss that.
Very important familial obligations.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody, for watching. This is Squid School. We do this every week. We'll be back next week doing a VOD review with a full team, actually. It's a German team called Rising Tide, so we might get into some shenanigans with German call-outs, because that's apparently what they have in the recording. So that should be fun. But we'll be back next week. It'll actually have to be a little bit earlier, everybody. We'll be because they're in Germany, which is 9 hours ahead of us. So if we were to start it at 3, that's midnight for them. That's not going to work out. So we're actually going to drop it back 2 hours. It's going to be 1 p.m. Pacific time to 3 p.m. Pacific time. That's when they will be conscious and able to say words on the mic. And we'll kick it right off with the VOD review at the beginning of that. Then we'll go into the league stuff that we've been doing after the fact. So we'll see you all for that next time. Until then, I am Jem. You can follow me on twitch.tv/strata_gem, as well as at this channel here. That's my personal channel. I do Splatoon stuff every Sunday, and I'm also doing a run-through of Dark Souls with a buddy of mine right now. So if you want to see that, that's there. And you can follow a whole bunch of different social medias. There's my alarm telling me to call my mom. I got to go and do that. So peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.